Hello and welcome to the Strategic Bookkeeper podcast. Today's episode is an interview with Mark Wickersham. Now, if you know Mark Wickersham, then you'll be really looking forward to this episode. Okay, I'll introduce Mark kind of with his bio in a second. I'll first tell you what we're diving into. So we're going to dive into AI. Okay, so we're going to look at how to use AI to build a more profitable bookkeeping practice, how to use it to improve our pricing, to attract better clients, and how to deliver powerful advisory services to our clients with AI. Now, Mark, for the longest time, for a very, very long time, has kind of been known as the pricing guy in the accounting industry. And he is fast getting a name as the AI guy as well. I first met Mark back in 2015, and actually it was in that year that he was shortlisted in the Accounting Web Outstanding Contribution to Accounting Award. Okay. He's been around a lot longer than that. He is a chartered accountant himself. He is a sought after profit improvement expert in the accounting community. He is also a published author, a speaker, and an all-round amazing human. He was featured in our Bookkeeping Practice Blueprint Summit, okay, as our key speaker there. He was amazing. We got the most amazing feedback. So if you don't know Mark Wickersham, you want to know Mark Wickersham, I recommend that you connect with him using the links we give you in the show notes. You can go to his website, but definitely connect with him on social media and definitely think about Mark as the guy for pricing and AI. Okay. So this episode's awesome. I cannot wait to bring it to you, and I'll see you in there. I'm Jeannie Savage, the Strategic Bookkeeper. I've been in practice for 14 years, but more importantly, 5 years in, I achieved a lifestyle practice. This means I scaled my business, could take my hands off the wheel, and draw a nice six-figure income while being time rich. And that's what I call my dream on my terms. I was recently awarded Women in Finance Innovator of the Year, recognizing my book, my podcast, my program, and my impact globally. The Strategic Bookkeeper is my life's work, and the opportunity to help bookkeepers globally achieve the income and lifestyle that sets them free absolutely fills my cup. Please do connect with me on socials at the Strategic Bookkeepers Way private Facebook group, or shoot me an email, hello@thestrategicbookkeeper.global. Okay, my friends, let's get cracking with this podcast episode, which I'm a bit excited about because I would love to hear from our guest who is going to talk to us about how to use AI to build a more profitable bookkeeping practice or accounting firm, how to use it to improve our pricing to attract better clients, and how to deliver powerful advisory services with AI, which I'm particularly interested in. So welcome to the podcast, Mark Wickersham.
Hey, thank you so much. And thank you for the invitation. I am looking forward to this. And forgive me, I had a cold last week, so my voice is just a little bit croaky.
Mine has been a little that way since November. I don't know what's going on. And then, it's hard to get a break from talking as well. As we kick off, I'll share something with you. I should have shared this before we even started recording, but it's just a little history on how I met you. So back in about 2015, I saw you here in Australia at an Intuit event, so QBO Intuit. And at the time, I was billing by the hour, and nobody could convince me to go to fixed pricing. And I'm a very direct communicator. And so I do well with direct communicators. And I think it's safe to say you're one. And you got up, and what you said, it impressed upon me. And I went back to the office, and in 48 hours, I went from pricing by the hour to fixed pricing. And in the 12 months that followed, my profits doubled. So thank you.
Oh, wow. Wow. Yes, I remember that. I remember that roadshow tour of Australia in 2015. It's a decade ago.
Yeah, it was amazing. And so let's see what I learned from you today in order to do better in my practice. So I don't have any particular questions to start with. I'd just love for you to maybe even just tell the audience, like, I know you well. So many of us know you well, your work and your impact in the accounting industry globally. If you could just tell us a little bit about who you are, what you do, and whatever's in your heart to share.
Okay, yeah. So I am an accountant from the UK, but I live in Portugal. Been in the profession since 1988, started my own accounting firm in 1996, made a complete mess of it in the first 3 years, And it wasn't until 1999 I discovered value pricing. That changed everything for me, turned my firm around, sold it to the managers. I've been then teaching the profession for since about 2001. Mainly, I'm known for value pricing. It's what I do. I run the Value Pricing Academy. I've written many books on value pricing. It's what I am known for mainly, but also I've got this reputation now. Apparently, I know something about ChatGPT. And I think it's only because I thought I was a late adopter because I didn't come across it until March 2023. It'd been out for a few months. And I heard in Facebook groups this talk about ChatGPT and thought, what on earth is that? And as soon as I looked into it, this light bulb went on. I thought, wow, this is going to change everything. And I think what appealed to me is that I've always been one of these people that loves the idea of automating, systemizing things. How can we get stuff done faster? I love productivity hacks. 2 of my books were written in a day. I've always figured out what's the shortcuts to getting more stuff done. And so ChatGPT, when I realized the power of that got me excited. So for the last couple of years, I spend every day learning about it and I spend every day teaching about it. It's just something that just fascinates me because of the potential it has for our accounting firms.
And to do such great things, because I think sometimes what I find working with bookkeepers, often they make an assumption that we're talking about just profits, but we're talking about absolutely we need to be profitable. But we get better client outcomes with everything, even with pricing, right? Clients are happier. So yeah, great client outcomes is also what it's about. Okay, so it sounds like you're the AI guy now in the accounting space.
It seems that way, yes.
All right, so how to use AI to build a more profitable bookkeeping practice or accounting firm. Can you just guide us through some of this so I can start to understand some of what you're finding is impactful in this space?
Yeah, so I remember when I first came across it, my first thought was, okay, this is cool, but what on earth will I do with it? And I think that's you can do anything with it. And that in itself is the problem. We never know quite where to start. So I spend a lot of time figuring out what are some of the practical things we can do in our businesses? What can we do to help us? And there are so many things, and usually the things that we're not so good at. So for example, we're busy doing client work. Marketing is not our strength. And marketing is something that ChatGPT is really good at. Creating content, creating marketing is really good. But we've talked about value pricing. And when I talk about value pricing, sometimes people struggle with the idea of how might we create different packages? How do we communicate the value of what we do? Again, with the right prompts, we can use ChatGPT to help us build out our pricing systems. We can also use it to create standard operating procedures in our business, like client onboarding processes. It's great at doing that. It's also really good for coming up with ideas, brainstorming. If we're stuck with something, I always go to ChatGPT. We can use it for text analysis and writing. So that might be to help us, for example, answering client emails. I have a little GPT. I used it twice today that answered a couple of emails for me. And then my favorite use case is business advisory. Because it's so good at strategic thinking and strategic planning, it makes advisory work so easier with the help of this tool. So many different use cases that we can use it for to help us in our businesses.
Okay. And so I only just the other day started getting into it for advisory because I work so much at the strategic bookkeeper, but in my bookkeeping practice, I was looking at a client who I love working with them a lot in the advisory space. Last year, they made great profit. And this year, something went wrong and they didn't make the great profit. And so I did use ChatGPT to do some analysis for the first time. My mistake was a little bit of garbage in, garbage out, right? I mean, that was a basic load some profit and loss data in and then, just ask it to start telling me things. And I'm not savvy in this space yet. I use it a lot from marketing and I love that. But tell us a little bit deeper on how we could maybe use it for advisory.
Yeah, sure. But also you mentioned the garbage in, garbage out comment, which is interesting because a lot of people who struggle to get the right results from ChatGPT, the reason for that is because if you want a better answer, you ask a better question. So one of the things we have to do is figure out how do we structure our prompts in a way that gets us better, more consistent outputs. So if we apply that to, let's think about business advisory, One of the things that we can do if we're doing advisory work is strategic planning for clients. And there are a number of different consulting models that we can use that are really powerful. The one that most people have heard of is the SWOT analysis. Sometimes people dismiss that because it seems almost too simple, but actually it's really powerful. There are many more as well. SWOT's the one that most people heard of. There's many, many others. I love the business model canvas. But with all of these business consulting models, ChatGPT understands them. So let's say that you have a meeting with a client to talk about strategy. Perhaps it's the first initial kickoff session where you want to explore their business and you decide SWOT's the thing you want to start with. Then you could go to ChatGPT, feed it a little bit of information about their business, for example, their website, and then say, create me a SWOT analysis. Going back to the garbage in, garbage out, the more information that you give, the better. So what I always do is with my prompts is I would always give it a template and say, this is how I want you to lay out the response. I want you to give me at least 5 ideas for each of the strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, threats. So I have a standard prompt that I would use, and I just simply copy and paste it in to ChatGPT. And then at the end of it, just put in the variables, which would be the client's name or their website. And it'll go away and then create that analysis. So when you then go and meet the client, to have the strategic planning meeting, it looks like you've done your homework. It looks like you care about them. You've thought about their business, that you understand their industry. Because what I used to do when I was running my accounting firm many years ago, and I used to do consulting work, I would do SWOT analysis and I'd turn up in the meeting room. I'd have typically some flip chart pages with one called strengths, one called weaknesses, and so on. And I'd say to the client, so let's do some analysis. Tell me, what are you good at? What are your strengths? And I would often get the client look at me and think, I don't know. And so what I would find is that if I could give them some ideas first, that would start the conversation going. So that's what ChatGPT does. I could say, so I've done some thinking about your business, and based on my research, I think there's 3 things that you are really good at in your business. Let me tell you what they are. And I would then just tell it what I got from ChatGPT. And I would then say, does that make sense? Are there other things that you could then think about? And at that point, the client then starts thinking, oh yes, and I'm good at this as well. And we're good at this in the business. And then you repeat the process for weaknesses, opportunities, threats, and you can have a really useful hour-long conversation doing a really useful SWOT analysis where you've done the hard bit in advance using ChatGPT. So that's just one example of the many, many things that we can do with using ChatGPT to help us with the preparation, coming up with the ideas, the strategies for advisory work.
Okay. And for my bookkeepers listening, so SWOT analysis, strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, threats, like Mark, I love them. I absolutely love them. And I only started doing them, oh goodness, I don't know, 5 or so years ago when I decided, you know what, I need to get more serious about this advisory stuff. And so I started doing SWOT analysis in like a bit of a business dive workshop where we would look at various things. And the SWOT was really the first thing that we did. And I have it in a Coach the Coach program for our graduate club members. So for the bookkeepers listening, the SWOT analysis is something that I do and is absolutely something that you do. And you can also reach out and ask more questions about this anytime, okay? So yeah, Mark, that is awesome. I'm thinking about the way that I coach. So up until now, I've coached bookkeepers to do a lot of this work themselves, and AI has changed everything, right? I was doing a SWOT with a client a while ago, actually showing a bookkeeper how to do it. And you're right, the client really struggled to answer a lot of the questions. And the idea that we can use ChatGPT to say, okay, here's all about the client. Here's what I need to gather. The SWOT could be other things, about this client. And they even give me ideas based on what we know the pain the client is facing. So for example, one client, a tradie, right? Like a lady tradie, and she was really struggling with seasonal work and needed to increase revenue. So getting some ideas, even if that means going back to the client and saying, okay, I've thrown some paint at this canvas. You have a look and tell me how true you think this is for you and what questions you have, right?
Absolutely, yes. And one of the things that people struggle with SWOT analysis, I think is a great tool. It's a great starting point, particularly the opportunities and the threats, which are external. Because when you use ChatGPT and then go back to the client, it looks like you really understand the industry. You are an expert. But sometimes people say, okay, so I've done this SWOT analysis. So what? What's the point of it? What do we do with it? And that's where people have always struggled with that. And so again, ChatGPT comes to rescue, because what we can then do is, having then finalized that with the client, The next stage of the process is to then figure out, okay, so what are the strategies that we should employ to really capitalize on these strengths? What are the strategies that we should employ to capitalize on these opportunities? And what are the strategies that we should employ to mitigate against the weaknesses and to mitigate against the threats? And that's where the real power then comes in, because the SWOT analysis then creates a picture of the business in terms of those strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, threats. And then we can use ChatGPT to come up with the ideas. What ideas will help us build this business, to build on those strengths, to protect ourselves against the weaknesses, to tap into the opportunities in this industry, and to protect ourselves against the threats. And they're the powerful follow-up prompts we want to then use to then come up with the plan. What are we going to do?
Yeah, the plan. It's all about the action plan, right? Okay, so I'm going to just encourage bookkeepers to go and do their own SWOT. It's a good start, right? Go and use ChatGPT to do this for your own bookkeeping practice. And please do exactly what Mark is saying. So you want to get it to help you with a SWOT. And then you want to ask, okay, let's talk action plan. What are the strategies? Okay. And then you're going to just get out there. So I like to say, Mark, that we don't learn by just listening and staying still, right? It's a loop of do, learn, do, and mastery is built. So get out there, grab a client and have a practice with them. You know what I mean? That's how you're going to build that confidence.
Yeah. And you make a great point there, Jeannie. One of my mentors once said to me years ago, he said, one of the great things about the accounting profession is duality. And what he meant by that was that if we want to build a more successful accounting business, then we need to learn about marketing, pricing, systems, strategy. Everything that we learn about how to build a more successful accounting business is almost everything is applicable to any business. And so we can then take that learning and then help our clients through advisory work. And so just as you've just said, I always say to people, when you do advisory work, make sure you practice what you preach. Treat your own business as the most important client. It is the most important client. So if you want to start doing SWOT analysis, then do it on yourself first, as you've said. And as I say, with anything to do with advisory work, make sure you've got those strategies in place. You've done that in your business, because then you've got more credibility. Then you can say to your clients, just so you know, we do this as well. Let me explain why we do this, the power of this. And then they understand it better.
Yes. And if you really want to learn something, teach it, right?
Absolutely.
So, okay, we can talk about advisory forever. And I know that we might have a lot of questions, but just to recap, look, it is amazing for marketing. And the best place to get started is to get started and learn by just learning, right? Then we've got, it can help us with SOPs, including I love onboarding and onboarding comms. That just changed my world. Oh, in the marketing space, I was going to mention something I love is getting it to help you come up with micro learning, like quizzes and health checks and diagnostics is fun, like lead magnets. But I would love to hear from you on pricing and how we could use AI to help us with pricing.
Okay, great. Well, I was doing a session just yesterday. I teach in the Value Pricing Academy. I teach how to do business advisory. And one of the things I was teaching was how you could have a mini advisory session teaching people how to get out of debt, because a lot of people are having real debt problems right now. And so then let's say you want to offer a service like debt consulting. The question is, well, how do you price that? And so what I went through yesterday in the training was a series of prompts that I've created that firstly, what we can do is say to ChatGPT, I want to start helping clients with this, helping clients get out of debt or whatever it happens to be. I want you to give me a list of what are the things I could possibly do to deliver this service. It'll then give you a whole bunch of stuff. That's great. With value pricing, we want to make sure that we create more value. So getting it to come up with ideas of how we can create more value. What else could we do as part of a particular service? And then what we have to do with value pricing is recognize that everybody values things differently. So if we have a single fixed price, it's the wrong price guaranteed every single time. We don't know what someone's willing to pay, so we have to give people choices. And there's something called the magic of 3, where you want to give people 3 options. Think of it as the bronze, silver, gold. And then where people struggle is, okay, so I've got this service, this debt advisory service. What would I put into the bronze? What would I put into the silver? What would I put into the gold? And ChatGPT can do that for you. It'll help you. Armed with the right prompt, it will suggest what you might put in different packages. Now we can take that to a more advanced level, because one of the things we should be doing is, and this we learned from marketing, is we need to understand different types of buyers and what they want. And if we've got that information as well, it'll perfectly match up all that list of features and things that you can do into packages that meet the specific needs of buyers. So ChatGPT is really good at helping us to come up with what we might put into different packages. Then once we've done that, we want to be able to communicate those packages to the client in a way that helps them choose the right one and builds up the value. So for example, never call your packages bronze, silver, gold. We know what it means, but nobody values bronze. We want better names, but accounting firms, as an accountant, I'm not very creative. We don't tend to be very creative. Well, that's fine. We can let the AI do the creative stuff. And I have a prompt that I use that says, I want you to give me a name for each of these packages, give me 5 different suggestions, make one very straightforward, make one very creative, make one humorous, and then it comes up with different types of labels rather than your bronze, silver, gold. Then what we can do is, one of the things that's very important is when you are talking to a client about a service and you go through the 3 different options, you want to make sure that you describe them succinctly, either verbally or perhaps on your website. And the language you use is really important. You want to make sure that you describe each package in terms of who is it best suited for and what's the defining aspect or feature of that particular service. So if you were doing business advisory, for example, you might describe your most expensive advisory as, this is for super ambitious business owners who want to work very closely with their accountant and get the very latest strategies on how to grow their business. Yes, there's lots of things that we'll do as part of that premium advisory, but by saying the words, this is for ambitious business owners, if you're talking to that type of person, in their mind, they're going to say, oh, that's me. This sounds like the one that's for me. And then when you say what the big feature is for someone who wants to get the latest strategies, again, they're thinking that one's for me. So those words that we craft are so important in helping our clients identify which package is right for them, which option. And so again, we can use ChatGPT to do this. Once it understands what's in the packages and who they're for, it'll create those words. And then finally, in terms of communication, we also have to make sure that when we then present and go through the entire package of all the things that we'll do, we have to remember that marketers teach us that all these things we do in a service, take, for example, bookkeeping, bank reconciliations is a feature. Nobody buys features, they buy benefits. If you say to a client, one of the things we'll do is a bank reconciliation, they will not go, wow, yippee, that's amazing. I've always wanted someone to do that. It's a feature. What we have to do is we have to figure out the words to communicate the benefit to them of that thing. And again, ChatGPT is really good at that. So when we run that whole series of process of prompts, we can end up, even for a brand new service like debt consulting, we can come up with packages, what we should do in each of them, how we describe them, the benefits of every single element. And we could end up creating effectively a pricing brochure that we can use in our meetings to help us communicate the value.
Yes, brochures and video sales letters do the talking better than us, right? Okay, I love that. And I love hearing what you said. The way that I've been explaining this to my bookkeepers lately is that when we try and sell, yes, bookkeeping bank recs, it's like having a travel agent only talk to us about a long haul flight, and it's like you're going to get on. Whereas all the focus needs to be on Paris, you know what I mean? And then we know we've got to spend thousands on this long haul flight, but we actually don't value it whatsoever. If we could avoid it, if we could take a pill to get there, we'd pay more for that probably. So it's always asking ourselves, am I focusing on talking all about the long haul flight, or am I, focusing on that destination, which is the benefit of getting on that airplane, right?
Absolutely, yes. We should always be talking about what's their life going to look like afterwards. Once we've done whatever it is we've done, and once we've solved their debt problem, once we've done their bookkeeping, what will their life look like afterwards? We want to paint that picture. That's what people want. They want an easy life.
Yeah, so powerful. I remember I was in Ubud, Bali, and I said to a prospective client for a catch-up job, and you know how stressed they are when they're behind and in the dark, and it's like the ATOs or our tax office is chasing them. And I said, give me a credit card and I'll give you a good night's sleep. And he said, how did you know? And what would we pay for our first full night's sleep if we've been laying in bed stressing about these things? We would pay a lot more than we would for a bank reconciliation.
Right.
Yeah. Okay, we could talk all night, but we'll wrap it up there. The thing that I think all the listeners would love to know is if they would like to learn from you about pricing and also AI, what's the best thing to do next?
Okay. Well, if they want to learn about AI, I have a fairly new community called ChatGPT for Accountants. It's completely free. It's got a place where they can come and ask me questions, engage with the community. And also I've got some tutorial videos on how to use ChatGPT. So I'll give you the link you can pass on for that. And then for pricing, I think the best thing to do is to go to our website, which is valuepricingacademy.com. And there's a tab across the top for free resources. So best place to go is go to our website and just grab as many free resources as you want and start there.
Yeah. Okay. And if anyone ever wants to ask me, well, what did you do and how did you do it after you first met Mark and profits doubled? It was actually one of the reasons I'm here today, because I built a profitable business where I could help others. So if anyone has any questions, you can connect with me and ask me that as well. So Mark Wickersham, I'm so grateful for having you on the podcast today. Thank you so much.
Thank you. I've loved it. It's been great fun.
Okay, my friend, now it is time to take action. So what are you going to do with what you learned today? The way I see it, you've got two options. You can go it alone to try and save some money, or you can back yourself and go for it and join my tribe. And let me tell you, we are knocking it out of the ballpark. That's not a sales pitch. That is me serving you, dare I say, courageously. To find success, I 100% know you need the mechanics, which is like the keys to the kingdom, but you also need to get your mindset right and be super productive. And these are all things I help you with inside the program. I could go on about this forever because I really want this for you. Have a prosperous week, and I'll see you in the next episode.